Manchester United have made Victor Osimhen their #1 transfer target this summer. Garnacho secretly puts his house up for sale. What does that mean? Manchester United continue to search for the best young talents around, including moves for a PSG Wonderkid and links with Ian Subiabre, injury updates ahead of the derby, and strong interest in Ademola Lookman. All this plus more in today's video as we run through all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with... I'm going to leave the transfer talk until the end. So firstly, congratulations, Bruno Fernandes, Player of the Month for March. Probably well-deserved as well. Kind of carried us through a majority of the games with his goals and assists. And yeah, massively underrated in my opinion, Bruno Fernandes. So congratulations to Bruno. Player of the Month for March. Smash a like on the video if you think that's deserved by Bruno. Let's go for the injury updates ahead of the derby tomorrow. So Ruben Amorim in his press conference said that Kobbie Mainoo is back in training, so we'll see about this match. Of course, he can't play a full match. He did say Matter de Ligt has a problem. We had something during the match at Forest, so we'll have to evaluate him, and the rest doesn't change. So potentially Kobbie Mainoo might be back amongst the squad. Not going to start though, so potentially could be on the bench. Question marks over Matthias de Ligt. There was a report, though, that he was seen limping coming after the game against Forest. But he did reply to a report that said that he felt okay. So hopefully that's one to kind of keep an eye on ahead of the match tomorrow. I think de Ligt's been an absolute warrior for us this season, so that'll be a bit of a blow to not have him available against City. Although Haaland is out for City, so maybe that's a kind of... obviously a bit of a blessing as well for us. Now, Luke Shaw is an option for Sunday, but it said they aim him for Lyon. And Aiden Heaven is also making good recovery. Now, that came from Sully Talk, so rumours that maybe Luke Shaw might be amongst the squad. Aiden Heaven posted on his Instagram saying he's going to be back soon as well. So starting to get a few more players back from injury. But obviously the case in point with Luke Shaw is how long is he going to be back for? And I don't think there's any hope in hell that he starts at the Manchester derby. They're not going to throw him straight onto the pitch. He might be on the bench and then come on in the second half to maybe get some minutes in his legs. But yeah, I don't think there's a hope in hell chance that Luke Shaw starts the derby without playing any minutes, and with his kind of previous injury records, I think they're going to treat him with kid gloves and give him plenty of time to maybe come back. But it is what it is. But interesting, but good that Aiden Heaven might be back soon as well, because I think he looks a very, very talented young player. And then obviously another player that we've got back, that's come back from injury recently is Mason Mount. So Amorim on Mount said, yes, he is physically fit to start, but we have to manage his minutes. He has trained many times. We will see on Sunday. So Ruben Amorim confirming that Mount would be ready to start, but again, they're trying to manage his minutes. So whether he will start or whether he'll come off the bench. I mean, you could start him and then bring him off early in the second half as well, because, it's an interesting one, actually. Let me know what you think, because I think Garnacho makes more as a better player as an impact sub at the moment. So I would rather have Garnacho on the bench and maybe start Mount to bring Garnacho on in the second half and take Mount off than the other way round, because I don't think Mount is an impact sub as much as Garnacho. So if you could kind of do it that way around, that would maybe be a bit better for me personally. But it depends on his fitness and his rehab and stuff. Obviously, there's been loads of talk around Mount and his injuries, and we're all aware of the situation with Mason Mount and his injuries. Just on that, though, so inside sources this morning can exclusively confirm confidence from medical officials regarding the nature of rehabilitation from Mason Mount's latest injury. So this is quotes from Sean Connolly from what an insider's told him at United, saying that Mason's been devastated about his Manchester story so far, but it's about as confident he is about as confident and dedicated a lad as you are likely to meet. Trust me when I say a fit Mace can propel this team into an entirely different attacking proposition. The belief held between the qualities of Bruno and Mount is as high as they come. And Ruben adores him, we all know from his public comments, but he really admires his mental fortitude and desire to help his teammates. You cannot put a price on what he brings to the ground and the dresser. I love him. So that came from Sean Connolly with some quotes from what an insider's told him regarding Mason Mount. And Mason Mount, I want to stay positive about Mason Mount, right? But He does fit the system. I like him as a player. I like what he brings. I like his tenacity, his pressing, his work rate, you know, but I do kind of think he's being a little bit overhyped with the fact that he's back. Just because he fits the system does not mean, he needs to still prove himself in that position. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist in 33 appearances for us so far. So yes, Mason Mount fits the system, but he still needs to do way better in terms of when he is available, his performances, because that is not befitting for me as somebody that's the savior of Man United to come in. Mason Mount with 1 goal and 1 assist in his 33 appearances that he has made. I think he needs to do way better, but consistency is going to be, that's part of the problem with Mount. As he comes back for a few games, injured again, back for a few. He's never had a run of games where he can actually find some match rhythm and some consistency. So it would be interesting to see if he can stay fit, what difference he could potentially make to the team, because I actually rate him. I think he's going to be a good player, but we need to I think he's being a little bit overhyped at the moment, because the reality is, like I said, he's only got 1 goal and 1 assist for us in his entire career so far, so it's not like we're missing, Ahmad, who has been by far our best player this season before he got injured, who was making a difference and winning us games. Do you know what I mean? But give us your thoughts on Mason Mount in the comments. And now, going through some Amorim quotes, so he was asked specifically on Garnacho. He said he's doing the right things, of course. Like all the players in our team, he has to make better choices, especially in the final third. All the players have to do better. We have to help Garnacho, but he's improving in his defence and his runs. He's working hard. He has to score more goals and make more assists. That's clear, but that goes for the others. He's a young player who wants to progress, who is improving. So Ruben Amorim kind of, saying that Garnacho's still doing the right, he's improving in other areas, but obviously it's the final third that is the issue with all of our forwards at the moment, where we're just inept up front, which is the story of Man United this season, isn't it? But interesting on Garnacho, though. So Garnacho has discreetly put his house in Manchester up for sale. Now, that came from The Sun, who originally you would kind of assume to take with a pinch of salt, but actually the journalist that reported it was really, really good when it came to all the Mason Greenwood stories. Last season when he was rumoured to be coming back, and I was bringing you all the news regarding Mason Greenwood. It's the same reporter from The Sun that was bringing that, so might have some kind of connections at the club, although, it is The Sun. But that was also confirmed, though, by Chris Wheeler, who is way more credible, in my opinion, saying that sources close to Alejandro Garnacho say he bought his house last summer when his family and brother were living in England full-time, but they have now returned to Spain, so the player and his partner are buying a smaller place. But so, Chris Wheeler did confirm that his house is up for sale, but the reports or the belief is that maybe they're looking to buy a smaller place. But, obviously the theories and the conspiracies will be, is he selling his house because of a potential move in the summer? He's quite close with his brother as well and his family, so it's interesting that they've moved back to Spain. And they're looking to downgrade or downsize. I mean, we'll have to just wait and see what happens. I'm not one that kind of thinks that there's anything more to it. He might just be wanting to move house, and that's it. And it could be as simple as that. But obviously, it could be that he's putting his house up for sale because of the exit in the summer, because it's widely reported that potentially, United might be looking to move on Garnacho. Maybe he wants to move on himself as well. I think it's still up in the air, the Garnacho situation in the summer. So it does, there's a lot of questions regarding that situation, because it's true. So he has put his house up for sale, but the reasons why, obviously, we don't know. He might just want a new house, in which case, fair enough. But he might be doing it because we might be looking to sell him, in which case, fair enough. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Now let's go through the rest of some transfer news. So, Manchester United have made Victor Osimhen their #1 transfer target for this summer. United is the most interested club from the Premier League in the Nigerian striker. Now, that came from Rudy Galletti, who is, fairly decent, but still a little bit hit and miss. Not the most credible is what I would say regarding that. Still suggesting that Victor Osimhen is our #1 transfer target for this summer. Now, there was another report. Now, this came from a Nigerian journalist who was on MUFC MPB, who are very good at finding all these kind of obscure journalists that kind of put reports out regarding players. Apparently, is quite friendly with Victor Osimhen. I do not know if that's true or not. I don't really, I have no idea whether that's genuinely true or not, but saying the same thing, that Manchester United have made it clear to Victor Osimhen that he is their #1 option. Maybe, again, I think it's clutching at straws at the moment, the Victor Osimhen news. The way I kind of read it, this is just my opinion and my thoughts. You can disagree or you can agree. I'm just here to share you the news and where it kind of come from and give you my opinion on whether it's a credible source or not, right? I think it's the same as what we've heard. If we get Champions League football, maybe we'll have the budget to get a Victor Osimhen. If not, I think it's going to be Liam Delap. I think they're the two names that I would kind of, from all the strikers that we're linked with, as those two seem to be the more credible ones. Obviously, the Osimhen one, though, he wants an absolute fortune in terms of wages, which Romano confirmed as well on one of his videos, where he said that an expectation is for him to leave Galatasaray. Napoli want to sell the player ASAP, though he said they don't want a drawn-out transfer saga, like a deadline day sort of deal with Victor Osimhen. They're happy to sell him, and they want to sell him as soon as possible, even as early as like June when the transfer window opens. Confirmed as well that his release clause is £64 million. He's open to finding a different solution. He did confirm United's interest is there, but it is not guaranteed because obviously it depends on the budget and the price and wages. But he did also reconfirm that he wants his salary guaranteed as well. He does not want to take a pay cut, and that's the kind of issue with Victor Osimhen, is the kind of wages. And then we've also had reports from like Ornstein and people like that suggesting that United are not really that interested. So I'll bring you the news. You can share your opinions on what you think about that in the comments. But I think if Romano had that sort of insight regarding Victor Osimhen, who did say that United are interested still, which is interesting. I think he would also know that if we told him that he was our number one kind of option. That's how I kind of read that. But give us your thoughts in the comments below. Now, another player we've been linked in, Manchester United remain strongly interested in signing Atalanta attacker Ademola Lookman as they plan a major rebuild of attack in the summer. The club is looking for new attacking options. So again, links with Lookman. He's a player that's kind of, in and out of the United kind of links. Would be a really interesting profile, though. 33 appearances, 18 goals, 7 assists this season. So including 5 goals and 2 assists in the Champions League, which is nothing to be kind of sniffed at. Statistically, looks absolutely brilliant, apart from the defensive side, the bottom 1% for interceptions and bottom 2 for clearances, but that could be a style kind of thing with Atalanta. Let me know if you know more about that in the comments. They're not a team that I've watched a ton of this season. But, progressive carries, top 92, and then in terms of the shot creation actions, top 93. He's having a he's like turned his career around almost at Atlanta from the fact that he went to, was it Everton? And I don't think he was particularly good there, but that just shows sometimes, the case in point would be De Bruyne and Mo Salah, who were at Chelsea, didn't make it, went away, revived their careers, and they've done all right with their careers since they've coming back to the Premier League, haven't they? And I'm not comparing Lookman to De Bruyne or Salah, by the way, but the example is that sometimes players just don't fit the club that they're at and the style of play, and they can go elsewhere and look really good. And we've got plenty of players that we've let go that stylistically fit better in other teams and other leagues. It's not always necessarily just the player, it's the environment they're in as well sometimes, in my opinion. But positionally would fit the system as well. Majority of games playing as a second striker or as like a number 10. That would be the kind of position we would look to bring him in. I think there's the kind of left attacking 10. So ticks a lot of the boxes. The only kind of negative is the fees, around £50 million. I think the kind of latest reports that I read were, and plus his age, he's 27. So is he at that kind of age, outside of that age target that we're kind of looking for? And for that sort of money, could you spend a little bit more on like Acuna or someone of that kind of nature as well? But we'll need to keep an eye on it for you. But profile wise, I think he ticks a lot of the boxes in terms of bringing him in for that kind of inside 10 position as well. But give us your thoughts on Lookman in the comments below. Now, Christopher Vivell was an option for Arsenal's director of football. Since being appointed temporarily last summer, Vivell has played a key role in some of the exciting swoops United have made. Due to this, Vivell earned himself a permanent deal earlier this year. So Graham Bailey suggesting that maybe Arsenal were looking at Christopher Vivell as their kind of director of football role before United kind of swooped in and gave him the kind of new 2-year contract, which is interesting. And Vivell is kind of been responsible for like Sekou Kone, Chido Obi, all these kind of profile of players that they're looking to kind of bring in, and could also have his fingers in the pie regarding the next two kind of transfers that news that will run through. So United have made contact with Oumar Camara's representatives in recent weeks. The 17-year-old winger has been scouted for over a year now and has been on the radar of many European clubs. PSG want to sign him on a professional deal, but he is set to leave. Now, that came from Sully Talks, who's been really good recently in terms of, injury news, stuff going on behind the scenes regarding United. So another young attacking player, predominantly played as a left wing or right winger, very, very highly regarded. 18 in May, out of contract in the summer as well. So we can sign him. For those who don't know, the reason I mentioned the age is because according to the FA and Premier League rules, we're not allowed to sign players under the age of 18 from abroad. But he's 18 in May, out of contract in the summer. Apparently that's kind of, potentially one that United are looking to kind of poach in a way that they did with like Aiden Heaven, who is going to be out of contract with Arsenal, same with Chido Obi. So it just kind of shows that they are looking at these sort of profile of players to bring them in and develop them, which I like the idea of doing that, because can't sit here and say, criticize the club for not getting the likes of Caicedo and, all these young players in the past when they were available on the cheap, and then criticize the club for going after these young players when they're available on the cheap as well. Like, it makes no sense to me. So I'm all for United kind of doing this, because this would be exactly the deal that in 5 years' time, if he makes it as a really top player, we'd be saying, why didn't we look to get him when he was available on a free transfer and 18 years old? So I like the idea of kind of doing this personally. Now, another young player that we've been linked with before, brought you the news in the past, is Ian Subiabre. So Manchester United and Arsenal were interested in signing Ian Subiabre. Interest is strong. Now, that came from a very decent South American journalist, again, kind of linking us with another young profile of player. He is very highly regarded as well. Played, across the front kind of three. Would be another project player, though. He is just turned 18 as well, so don't expect him to come in and change the first team, but definitely another one for the future. Got raw ingredients, looks a really kind of talented player from what I've read and researched regarding him as well. Could be one to kind of watch. And again, I like the idea of going for these players, because these are exactly the sort of players that when we've missed out in the past, we're moaning about. So I can't moan at the club going for these sort of players now, because I think it's I would prefer us to be going for these sort of players than I would like somebody in their late 30s coming towards the end of their career, that's for sure. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.